Hello, Tim.
Hi.
It's so good to be speaking with you today.
Very nice to be speaking with you too, across the great Atlantic and by the magic of technology.
Yes, yes. So you are actually, I found that quite interesting. You call yourself a stand-up philosopher. So I want to hear what that is about. But you're an author, and you're considered as a spiritual pioneer also. And what I really want to talk with you today about is I'm sure a topic that you love is dreams and magic.
Okay.
But
Well,
first of all, I would love to hear how you see a stand-up. What is a stand-up philosopher?
the whole idea of a stand-up philosopher was something I started years ago, where it felt that spirituality was kind of stuck in a rut, especially maybe more so here in the UK, where it was very serious. There was a certain way of doing things. And I'd written the Jesus Mysteries, which was an international bestseller by then, and I was starting to be cast in this role that I wasn't really comfortable with, of being a spiritual teacher, because that's what I write about. And I thought, because it carries, a whole lot of implications. It's not, if you're a maths teacher, it's one thing, but if you're a spiritual teacher, it's a whole world. And I don't fit comfortably with that. So I needed something I could call myself. So I like the idea of stand-up philosophy. I'm also someone who's discovered that I really can move consciousness when I talk, if I move, because it's dynamic. So, and I like to have fun. I think humor is really, really important too. So combining all those elements together, I wanted to present philosophy as entertainment, as something where you go in for an evening, experience a type of magic in which the world changed before your very eyes, and then come out transformed and go, that was a good evening, rather than that was a spiritual.
Yeah. Significant.
So sounded like a good idea.
Well, awesome, awesome. So tell us about you see life as a dream, don't you? I would love to hear more about that.
I experienced my first awakening when I was very young, and I've spent the whole of my life since then trying to work out what happened and how I can reconnect with it. And part of that job as a philosopher is to try and find ways to think about it for myself, but also to communicate with others, which can take you straight there. Because it's a very natural thing, it's available to everyone, and often the way we think about it is so complicated, it kind of puts it at a distance. And in that process, maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, I came across this image which really opened it up for me, and in my experience of taking people to this state now on a regular basis, really opens it up for others. And that's to say, this awakening, which everyone talks about and been talking about forever, since the beginning of recorded history, the state is very much like lucid dreaming, except it's now. And I call it lucid living. So just like in a dream at night, normally you're immersed in the dramas of your dream, but you can dream consciously, lucidly, and then you're dreaming. And you realize you have this kind of polarity to your being. On the one hand, you're the person in the dream, but now that's not all you are. You're really the dreamer, and the whole dream is arising in you, and you're everything and everyone. And this state of awakening, which has obsessed me all my life, is very much like that, in my experience. It's like there's a dream of life, if you will, and it's an analogy. I'm not saying it's the same as a dream, it's like a dream. And it's like a dream in that when you get into this deep awake state, you see that what we really are is this one awareness within which everything is arising. And that you are both, so here I am in the dream, and I'm experiencing it from the point of view of Tim, connecting with all of these other people, with you. But if I've come back into this deep awareness, there's this one spacious presence, just like in a lucid dream. So the dream's continuing, but I'm lucid, and that's why I call it lucid living.
So how can we change our dream, or can we?
Well,
there are some nightmares. Some people are living a nightmare right now.
Oh yes.
Can we switch from nightmare to a dream? How can we go from? Is it like dimensions? Is it like layers? Is it like, how do you see that? How is it? I'm visual, so.
Well, one thing is I need to make clear right now is I'm not saying this is Tim's dream. Tim's part of the dream. You know, when I dream at night, the person I dream myself to be isn't dreaming the dream. They're in the dream. Mm-hmm. Tim is not dreaming this dream. Mm-hmm. Tim is being dreamt. What we are, this big mind, this life dreamer, you know, God, if you want to, spirit, if you want to use traditional language, Brahman, if you want to go, or Buddha nature, you know, it's all the same. That's the awareness within which it's all arising. That's what we are. That's what's creating all of it. Then the first thing I think which is most important is that when I step into that deep awake, lucid living state, then there's this love, this incredible love. Because when I feel that I'm not separate from you or from anything else, you know, love is how oneness feels. When you love someone, it's because you feel you're not separate from them or from a place or anything. So when you get this sense of, oh, look, well, fundamentally, there's one of us dreaming itself to be everyone and everything, you find yourself in love with everyone and everything. And that immediately changes the nightmare. Straight away. It doesn't mean that everything works out for you, alas. You know, it would be lovely if there was a switch where you could say, right, you know, just do this and there'll be good without bad, joy without suffering, day without night, rain, you know, sunny days without rainy days, yum without yuck. But the truth is, everything about our experience is based on all of those polarities. That's not going to change. But what you can do is come into this state of love with it. Mm-hmm. And then the love it mitigates the suffering. It doesn't take it away. You know, my dad died just recently, and, you know, it didn't take away the suffering, but the love made it poignant, kind of beautiful as well. So the first thing, I think, the way you can change the dream is just simply being in a different state of consciousness. There's no such thing as the dream of life. There's just the experience of life in that particular state of consciousness. And I know for myself, if I'm really tight into Tim, life can be pretty hellish. Mm-hmm. But if I come into this big space, Tim's still Tim. He's still this same quirky guy from England with all of his limits and all the rest of it. But there's this love. And to be in love with life and in love with the moment just instantly makes the dance between good and bad, winning and losing, suffering and joy, makes it not more than bearable. It makes it, you can embrace it. Actually, right. Just really embrace it.
But that involves that a person would love already themselves to be able to give that and to connect with that with others.
Well, what I'm saying is that when you discover who you really are, you are love.
Yes.
If you come back into being conscious of what you really are, you are love. You are this oneness which is embracing everything, absolutely unconditionally, just as it is. And then it's possible for that place there to love Tim in a way that when I'm stuck in Tim, it's really hard for me to love Tim, really hard. And yeah, if I'm out in that, if I'm in a different state of consciousness, if I'm deep awake, I can love Tim just as he is. Doesn't mean that I don't think Tim has problems or that Tim isn't, doesn't need to grow and learn, and doesn't mean that he doesn't, piss me off from time to time. But there's a fundamental love because there's no separation.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And tell me about that magic. Tell me about the magic of life that you experience when you're in that lucid dream.
When you enter, when you see like nature of life, when you see its dreamlike nature, when you become conscious of it, then it becomes more and more dreamlike. And anyone who's made the journey or begun the journey of spiritual awakening instantly, I think, experiences that. There's a magic which starts happening, a flow of things that start, synchronicities, strange coincidences, all of that phenomena, which a lot of people now are very familiar with. When I started off a long time ago now, nearly 40 years ago, it all took me by surprise because no one had ever talked about it. And suddenly there was this, oh my God. And you start seeing that the inner and the outer are not separate. They're interacting with each other all the time. So that the way that you are, it's not so much the way you think, it feels to me, as the state of consciousness you're in. It's like if you come into this love, you enter a state of grace. You enter a state of, it's like you are with the Tao, as they say in the Chinese traditions. You're with the flow, and then things can unfold. Now, in my experience, that can mean that quite extraordinary bits of magic happen. But also, it doesn't mean they always happen.
Right.
And one of the problems I have with a lot of American spirituality right now is I think there's a lot of confusion about that. There's a feeling that if you could just think right or intend right or believe hard enough, that the magic would always happen, and that if the magic isn't happening, you're just not doing it right, and it's your fault. My experience isn't that at all. My experience is you come into this big love, this big love, and you've got everything you need. You just got everything you need. There is nothing you want. Now, that doesn't mean you're still, I'm still Tim. There's things that Tim wants and he needs to do, and that's all great. And from that big place, I'm able to, the power of my intention, the power of my creativity, my imagination, you see, it's all imagination, can interact with, that what Tim is imagining kind of, it's like a seed which can just go into the big mind. And if that seed can grow, it will. Now, there was one particular seed which I write about in my book, How Long Is Now, which was dramatic for me, was when I was about 30 and I was a musician creating dance music, and had this whole vision for recording an album, making a video around the environment, around the Kogi Indians from Colombia, and their message to the world about what they called the mother, the earth. And it was a beautiful vision. I had nothing. I had no money. My life was in pieces, to be honest with you, at that particular time. And yet I went through this process very quickly of just going, I can see this. And within a few weeks, it sounds so crazy to me even when I remember it. I had a 24-track recording studio, which was state-of-the-art in those days. We were making an album and a video in a manor house in the countryside in England, and it was phenomenal that could happen. It was just amazing. But other things haven't happened like that.
So why some intentions do happen and some others don't?
I feel like it's like, I feel like my real answer is, there's it's one of the problems I have with spirituality. There's a sense if we were discussing a phenomenon in physics, then we would be probably much more likely to go, well, we don't know yet. But there's a phenomena. Well, we don't understand it yet. In spirituality, everything becomes a bit more mushy. It's as if we do know, or if somebody knows. And my sense is we don't know yet. We're discovering this. We're exploring this phenomena. And the image which works for me as a gift to that debate is that when, people say that a seed contains a tree. People say that a seed contains a forest. You may have heard that. And it's just not true. It's a lovely idea. The seed contains trees, which contain seeds, which contain trees. It's a lovely idea. It's not true. What the seed contains is information. And the information will take the world around it and create a tree. And I feel like it's any seed is like that. So when when we have these moments where you can plant these deep seeds into this deep consciousness, if there are the nutrients, if there is the possibility for it to grow, it will. But it can't always grow. You can have 6 people running a race and they can all be intending to win, but they all won't win. It's the nature of life to be divided up, to be separate. It's the nature of life to be predicated on this polarity of this and that, good and bad, winning, losing. So that's not going to go away. So I feel like what we do and why it works sometimes is that we can offer out these things, these visions, these imaginings. And if there's room for it to come into being, or to the degree that there is room for it to come into being, it will. And that's happened to me over and over again. But I also know there's been an awful lot of them which haven't happened.
Which keeps us humble, doesn't it?
Well, absolutely. And the key thing is, this is all secondary stuff. Because the key thing is, my focus personally is not on any of this. Because the key thing for me is, look, if you wake up, if you come into that love, you can just let it unfold. And you are not driven. When I was younger, I spent a year in meditation twice. And the biggest thing I learned from that which I didn't expect to be the big thing I learned. But what I learned was, I was just following my breath for day after day, was that just to breathe was enough. Not because, well, it's enough, but because it was absolutely gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Just to breathe. I have it now. It's so utterly pleasurable. And as the big state opens up around it, this love is so indescribable. The imperative to play out all of these other fantasies just isn't there. And actually embodying the love becomes the most important thing. And that's where your attention goes. That's where my attention goes. It's like, that's what I want. I want to embody the love.
Mm. So what are some of your practice, so we can keep this practical, what are some of the things that you recommend to feel this love and get in this state and live this lucid living, and all of that? What are some of the tools?
Well, there's lots of things that I play with, but I mean, let me say first that the thing that really works in my experience, mm-hmm. and this is why I do what I do, my concentration now is not really on writing, although I am going to write again. It's on taking people to this big love directly. So they actually experience the lucid living. Cool. They know what it means to have to be deep awake, and they feel in their bodies the big love. Mm. You can't miss it. You know something, and you can never put it into words. So what I do at the moment is something I call the mystery experience. I've just done one in Las Vegas. We had a group of us in Las Vegas, all sorts of different people, men and women, all different ages. And every single person went through and experienced this big love. They're astonished. Everyone is. It's like, my God, I didn't think I could experience this. And there's this relief, this kind of, this is coming home. It's kind of familiar. It's beautiful. This connection with everything. Once you've experienced it, you know it's there. Yeah. Then you've got someone to come back to. Mm-hmm. Then you start connect. So what I try to do is initiate people, which means really give them a taste of where they're going. Have the big experience, because that's what happened to me. I guess that's why I do it. To me, it just happened. But from then on, I knew where is that? Where? And then I find it again. Oh, there it is. But deeper or something, So what I try and do for people is initiate them, to actually take them through and say, look, spend a weekend with me and I will take you to that place if I can. I will do my best. A lot of people it happens for. And then you can do things to bring you back. Now, that doesn't mean the things you can do can still do it. They can. So I can share some of those with you. It's just they're more powerful if you've already had that initiation. Mm-hmm.
So can we experience that right now, a little bit of it? Or
yeah,
does that
you can
take time?
experience it every moment, But here I think is probably the centerpiece for me. It's the doorway that opens. And it's incredibly simple. It's to find the place where you don't know anything. Mm. To step out of your story. We're all going along in a story. And the story's beautiful. Human stories, I love them. We love each other's stories. There's nothing wrong with stories. They're great. But if you get stuck in your story, you're really missing something else. So with this lucid living, I don't know if you can see my hands involuntarily shooting around here. But
yeah.
It's like what you see is a polarity to your being. So up here, if you like, if you're visual, it's all one. It's all perfect. It just is. It's the dreamer. And then here in the dream, we're on this journey between this and that and all the rest of it. And we need to have both of those at once. Both at once. And what happens when you get stuck in the story is you just get caught in your separateness. Mm-hmm. But if you remember that the whole story is ultimately based on mystery, if you can stand out and look at the night sky and go, good God, what is it to be alive? That we exist right now. If you can look at this moment, this flow of colors and shapes and sounds, and if you can see with absolute authenticity and humility, and I have no idea what this is. This is beyond any idea to capture. That you and I are conscious, and that through this dance of appearances, and in our case, technology, consciousness is connecting with consciousness. And even more bizarrely, if someone is listening to this at some later date, that consciousness is connecting with consciousness through time. I mean, you just see the mystery of what we're confronting here. And as you do, consciousness changes. If you connect with the great mystery, the not knowing, instantly consciousness begins to change. And if you dive into it deeply, it will really, really change. Now, that doesn't mean that your story's not there when you come back to it. It's, it doesn't mean you don't know who you are. It doesn't mean you haven't walked out on your life. In fact, actually, the opposite. It's when you experience the mystery, the awesome wonder of it, that you can actually walk into your life. Because there's this freedom then. This immense delight in existence, which in my experience, when you get stuck in your story, I don't know how you experienced it, but when I get stuck in my story, it all gets a little bit serious and a bit down and a bit, and there's that kind of tightness. Because you're trying to cram this huge being into this tiny little body. But if you let the being be the space, like in a dream, the awareness within it which it's arising, then suddenly there's this wonder of existence, and you don't know. I don't know who you are. I don't know what it is to be even. What is any of this? What is life? What is death? Geez, does anybody know? No, nobody knows. Isn't that phenomenal? This is you Americans talk about the elephant in the room. There's a whole herd of flipping elephants in the room, tearing through the room. Nobody knows what this is. We're alive, and nobody, I will dare to say it, knows. Nobody knows. And that's because you can't know it. It's not because we're too stupid. It's just to know something with ideas is not to know what it really is. So if you just see ideas as ideas and come into this direct appreciation of being and the mystery of it, wow, you just start waking up. You remember you're alive. Oh my God, I'm alive. Jeez. Yeah, really. I work with people who are dying, and a lot of people wait till they're dying before they remember they're alive. Oh, yeah. A lot of people. Yeah. But we are, and it's the most breathtaking mystery at every moment, isn't it? It is. Just, indescribable.
Thank you for sharing that joy and that magic right now. It's amazing as soon as we release the mind how, everything is.
See, this both and again, Lilo. I'm a philosopher. I love the mind. I love thoughts. I love, inquiry. I love people who question things. I'm a questioner. I love all that. But the irony is, you need this as well. Not instead, but as well. The mind's very good at doing mind things, and it's beautiful. We all should have one. If you stop thinking altogether, you don't become enlightened, you just become very stupid. And gullible. And there's a lot of that goes on in spirituality, a huge amount, where you just want to go, think some more, for God's sake, not less. But it's all arising in something. Yeah. And what it's arising in is what we are. And that isn't a thought or an idea. It's so much closer. And when you touch that, that's where the wonder is, the love is, the sense of coming home, whatever metaphor, I don't know, there's no words for it. Mm-hmm. But when you know it, you know it. And there's no limit to how much it can open up either, I don't think. It just seems to go on and on and on.
So to call the magic in our life and to be magician, we are in this space, but can we call forth? Can we intentionally... Is there a little trick with that?
Yes, but be very careful what you ask.
So we're open to magic. That's a good place to start.
Yeah, I'm open to magic. Like I said earlier on in the conversation, I've had too much magic in my life. I studied Western magic when I was younger, very, very intensely it was only for about 12 months. And it was the strangest, most bizarre, most confusing 12 months of my life. It was just, every day was an outrageous adventure. I can remember at the time thinking, God, if I wrote every day as a chapter in a book, no one would believe this stuff. Because it just seems incredible. So I'm definitely open to it. I've been through it all. But what happened for me when I came out the other end was I thought, you know what? What matters for me is the love. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's always been what it's about. So I'm going to concentrate on that first and foremost and let the other just take care of itself.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much for this. It's very, very inspiring. It was lovely getting to know you a little bit better and sharing this moment with everybody on an international level, I just love how we can just spread all this love at once through the internet, you know. And there is no lid to this conversation. There is no lid at all. I love that.
That's a great phrase. I like that phrase. No
Thank
lid
you.
to this conversation. It's been a delight to